Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Vince Rocco in New York, where the state of our industry can run in cycles. So let's get right to what everyone is talking about. 2 decades in the New York City real estate market teaches one thing quickly. There is no such thing as a normal market, only cycles, and how well you understand them. From boom years that reward speed and confidence to downturns that demand patience and precision, every phase reveals something different about value, leverage, and human behavior. The agents, investors, and developers who last aren't the ones who predict the market perfectly. They're the ones who recognize patterns early. They adjust faster than anyone else and stay disciplined when the pressure builds. This is a conversation about what those cycles actually teach you, when to push, when to wait, and how to operate when the market inevitably shifts again. That's what we're talking about today. And here on set with me are Juliet Clapp from the agency New York City and Scott Kogos from Howard Hanna, New York City, and they join me now to discuss. But first, let me welcome my listeners and my viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. This is Talking New York Real Estate, so let's go behind the headlines and inside the state of our industry.
Hey, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. As an official moving partner of Brown Harris Stevens, we know that your clients deserve more than just a move. At Roadway Moving and Storage, we turn moving into an experience they will love. From specialized services to a white glove treatment, we've got it all covered. When you choose Roadway, you're choosing a peace of mind for your clients. Plus, our referral program is the most rewarding in the industry. Want to learn more? Shoot me an email at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we're back. So a couple of things today before we get started with our remarkable and amazing panel here today. Today marks our 12th anniversary of doing Talking New York Real Estate. We started in 2014. Seems like 20 years ago, but yet it seems like yesterday. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody for being supportive, for listening, for viewing. You all know, because I talk about it all the time, this is my happy place. I just love being here, and I love doing this every week. If I could do it every day, I would. So anybody out there want to hire me, I'm available. Today also happens to be National Cocktail Day.
Oh, I love that.
So at the end of the day, make sure you go out and do what I'm going to do and make that. Well, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to have. I posted it, so go and guess on my Instagram. But it's National Cocktail Day, so we want to make sure that we keep the spirit going. After 5 o'clock, though, always after 5 o'clock.
Well, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's always 5 o'clock somewhere. Now you sound like me. That's what I always say.
And also, I want to say congratulations to you on
Thank
your 12th
you.
anniversary. That is an incredible show, and I've had the honor of not only listening to it and being informed throughout the years, but also engaging with it on you. So thank you so much for sharing that.
I totally appreciate it, and we always love having you on the show. And Scott, for the first time today, so welcome to you.
Thank you so much.
I want to ask you, guys, though, after decades, and whether it's 2 decades or a decade and a half or 3 decades, whatever the amount of years is, what's the biggest misconception that people, still have about reading the market, right? Everybody thinks they know everything about the market, or everybody has a comment about the market. But what really is the biggest misconception, Jules?
I think the first misconception is that what you hear and see in the news is not really the reality of what's going on in the market in New York. What makes New York also very unique is that a lot of our data is lagging. Our closed data is always about 2-3 months out. So when people are out there printing market reports or talking about what's going on in New York, there's a lag there.
Yeah.
And really to know what's happening in New York, first I think it starts with our agents, the boots on the ground. They come back and share with us what they're seeing, what they're hearing. And as leaders, we always want to be tapped into that. And I also think if you can find some real-time data, which has always been a bit of a challenge, but I'm a big fan of Urban Digs and Noah Rosenblatt's when he has his contract
100%.
activity. So I always look at the contract activity, what's going on daily, what's going on weekly, because I think that's our number one indicator. And right now, as we're going into the spring market, I'm keeping my eye on listing inventory. What's coming on, how quickly or how slowly. We've stalled a little bit going to the spring market due to our economic conditions. So that's the misconception, right, is that the headlines out there is lagged data. To really know what's happening is really the boots on the ground information that we can get from our agents. And then also really tracking precise data on real time, which is more of your contract activity and also your listing volume.
I mean, well said. And we've talked about, data on this show many, many, many times and the importance of it. and how it helps us in our industry. And it's interesting you mentioned inventory or what's coming on or how much may be coming on. We've been talking about on a couple of past shows how inventory for 2026 could potentially be our biggest problem over the interest rate drama that we've all kind of gotten over or gotten used to. We don't have enough inventory out there to sell to the buyers who are now finally wanting to do something and get out there and make some purchases. So let's see how that inventory, I'm also watching to see where that goes. Scott, what, in your opinion, are the earliest signals, before the headlines that tell us as industry professionals that cycle is changing? Whatever change is going to happen, but it's changing. What are the early signals that we should be looking for?
Well, first of all, great question. And first of all, amazing response, Julia, on your first question to Vince. I want to say thank you very much for having me today. Number two,
pleasure.
Congratulations on 12 years and the amount of, I think, insight to Manhattan, which is a completely different it's not even a bubble. It's a completely different world than the rest of the country.
Absolutely.
And so the insight that you give along with Noah and John at Urban Digs is absolutely incredible.
Urban Digs is beyond.
They really do a great, great job. So really ending with where you ended is inventory. So as an economist background, so math, science, and economics, I look at cycles. So I've been actually tracking cycles for the last 30 years. Because my career started in new development, back in early 2000, and then went into resales. But I even went back into the late 90s to when really condo markets started coming on. So for me, it's always inventory. So to your point, right now I think we have just under 6,000 units in the city. A good, healthy market coming into the spring. Available approximately about 5,700 to 5,800 units. Okay, I figured out that maybe there's another 300 odd units that are 5 million above off market. We're still barely at 6,000, which is well below where we should be. Now, if you look at Urban Digs and you look at looking at those early signs of inventory, you're spot on. We don't have enough inventory. I think, buyers are now beginning to come out. They've had 2 years to stay at home while, with the FAIR Act kicking in and their rents went up. You've seen more people like couples moving in together, saving money. They're now prepared for the spring market, and there's just not a lot of good inventory on the market, right? So I think if you're a seller and you're looking to make a life change, because I think that's the biggest variable that's affected everything since 2000, is that four-letter word called life that has so many more sort of effects on all of us of why we make a decision, and especially an emotional decision as purchasing or selling your home. Then I would say, speak to your local your expert, or that person that you've worked with for a long time, or your neighborhood expert, and discuss maybe listing your apartment, because it doesn't mean you're going to get pie in the sky number. It means that there is the right buyer out there for you that's really looking to jump in the market, but they're looking for the right quality and pricing. They're not just going to be paying whatever you wanted to pay, because the market right now is moving sideways.
I can take us back 24 years. That's how long I've been in the business. And when I was first hired, Michael, at Halstead way back when, he always said the same thing. If it's not priced right in whatever market that was 24 years ago, it isn't going to sell.
Yeah.
And, true to form, all these years later, it's still a fact. If it's not priced right, it's not going to sell. Period. Not going to sell. So also going back, I remember reading about cycles or reading about how markets have changed in the New York Times. We were all glued to the New York Times Sunday section that came out on Saturday. Unless you looked at the New York Times, you really didn't know what was going on. And I remember, talking to friends outside of this industry. Hey, I hear your market's not good. Hey, I hear your market is booming. Hey, I hear this. Unless you read the newspaper, you didn't know. My opinion today, it's like the topic of conversation, I want to say on a global perspective.
Sure.
Okay. But more so here in New York, right, Jules?
Yes.
I mean, everybody knows what is happening. And I wonder, why it's so important. You and I talked a little bit about this off air, but why is it so important for people to really kind of get into what our New York City marketplace is all about?
So just before we dig a little deeper into that, I just want to say, Scott, thank you so much for bringing up also the point of how you really need a resource in an agent. In today's world, right? Like, because of the changing of the market consistently and because of the noise out there, having that local expert who really knows what's happening is vital. So I'm so glad that you touched on that. New York,
New York.
New York is like no other market in the world. And I was sharing with you before, in the other room, that I was listening to a podcast about real estate, and they said, we can't even talk about New York. It's just too much of an outlier, right? So they were talking about the world and, nationally, and I was like, it's so true. And so the way that New York operates, first, why don't we start with the fact that it's such an honor and a privilege to work in New York City and to be in real estate in New York City. It is the number one financial capital of the world. There are more billionaires here than anywhere else in the world, and it's your number one feeder market. So I always remind myself and my agents, my team, like it's such a privilege and such an honor to walk these streets every day and to work with these incredible people in buying their biggest asset in their lives, for many. It's an honor. I love it.
And whether they live here or not.
Yeah, they want to be a piece of it.
They want to be a piece of it, and they want to be here. At some point, they get to come here. At some point, they don't, whatever.
Yeah.
Depending on where they're coming from and who they are. But it's a major, major thing. And when I'm teaching, I say the same thing. Just always remember where you are, what you represent, because it is an honor to work in this industry, the greatest people business in the world, in New York City. And it's really not going to change.
No, and it's not. And even with all the cycles and what's happened over the years, it's also the most resilient market, right, Vince and Scott?
100%.
Right? We've gone through everything from the financial crisis to September 11th to COVID. Right? So, and we're still very resilient. And, we'll have our cycles, we'll have our ups and downs, but we just need to know how to pivot along with it. And also, when we also think about people that buy in New York, for some, yes, it can be their biggest investment.
Absolutely.
And for the high net worth individual, it's part of an asset class, right? Part of their portfolio. So it's an honor. And it's a privilege to be here.
I couldn't agree more. Scott, what cycle, taught you the most? I mean, we talk about all different cycles, highs, lows, in between, whatever, weird markets, whatever the issue is. But what cycle that you could recall taught you the most, and why?
I'm going to tell you 2000, COVID.
Yeah.
Okay. And, I hopped into the resale. So 2020. Why? Because it wasn't about, it really hit the point home that what we do for a living is not about, that item that, they either can afford that penthouse or not. They want to be on the east side or the west side. They want to be uptown or downtown. They want a penthouse or they want a brownstone. Those push-pull variables, that's our job and your local expert to do. But to understand get inside someone's mindset. And I don't mean that from a salesy standpoint. I mean about empathy and compassion.
Yes.
Okay? Because nobody will ever prove me wrong, even in an investment.
There are words, right? Empathy and compassion.
Scott, you just hit the nail on the head with that. You really did.
It's because we're humans. This is what we do for a living. I mean, I've seen it time and time again. My job is to bring my clients, if I'm working with a buyer, to homes or apartments that they say they want to see. That's not a discovery process. Yes, the discovery process is maybe checking out the neighborhoods or, this kitchen versus that kitchen, but I've got to hit 2 or 3 of their wants in the first set of showing, or else that means I haven't listened to them.
Right, you got to build that trust.
You got to build that trust.
Yes.
And the first thing I do with everybody is I sit down, whether I'm invited to their home, I take them to coffee, or maybe it's a drink or something, and we don't even actually talk about real estate yet. I say, talk to me about how we know each other, how we were introduced. Maybe I just met you on the street.
Right.
Because, Vince, and Jules, I can talk to that wall and eventually he'll tell me to shut up. But eventually.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
You're creating a deeper relationship.
But you're creating a relationship.
Care about them as people.
And then that's how you can really help them, because then they are willing to trust you and let down some of their deepest emotions of what's happening with their lives. And that's how we best as experts can help them. So I think 2000 was, we were closed for 90 days. When we opened back up, it wasn't back to, sending out my postcards and direct mails and all that.
No.
This was, hi, Jules, how are you? Or Vince, how's your family?
Very, very traumatic. Jules, what market cycle, affected you the most? And how did it change the way you operated going forward? I mean, I think I agree with Scott. 2020 was so bizarre in how it, turned out and how it manifested. And again, the year after was still kind of iffy.
Yes.
We didn't really know where we were going to go. So to me, probably that's the market or cycle that stuck out the most. And of course, we came into boom years in 22, but what, which is a good thing, but
Yes.
but what affected you the most or made you change the way you look at how cycles can change?
Yep.
And how did you maybe change the way you operate in this business?
I think the number one learning lesson I can say through these cycles, especially since COVID as well, is that you have to be able to pivot, right, quickly. And you also have to really be focused on your deep relationships, not only with our clients, but also with the agents around us. Yeah. So my biggest lesson was that I had to move quickly and I had to not get caught up in the noise, stay close to my strategy. I had to be precise when it came to pricing. I had to be strategic and creative when it came to my marketing. And then all the relationships that I have with my agents and our clients, you want to make sure that you deepen those and you're really in touch with their motivation and what they want and that you are their guide for them. So I think when I kind of look back and summarize it, learning to pivot, Vince, right? You can't keep doing what you're doing and don't get stuck in the fear and in the noise. And a lot of people do that. And that uncertainty is when people stop, they don't know what to do. And that's the most opportune moment to do something. And I actually have a personal story on that,
Yes,
if you don't mind I shared.
Yeah.
So my dream since I was 18 was to have like a little beach bungalow in Rhode Island, right? Where I'd have a key under the mat where all my friends can come and go whenever they want. That was my dream. 30 years, but we'll say 20 years later. A couple years later, during COVID, the market opened up again. Now there's tons of bidding wars going on in Rhode Island, and I lost out on this one house twice, and I was so bummed. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be buying right now. It's COVID. Prices are inflated. Oh my God, you're going to have to renovate. Labor costs. The cost of materials are insane. You're out of your mind. I bought it. And I was like, you know what? I knew what I wanted. I had my motivation. I knew my long-term goal, right? And that's our buyers and sellers today, right? In any market, they have a goal. They want to get their children into maybe a different school system, so they're moving to the Upper West right now. Or they have a family event where now maybe they're pregnant and their family is getting bigger, right? So you find out what their motivation is and stick to that because that's what's most important to them. Don't get caught up in the noise. Be strategic, be precise, and keep going. Don't get frozen in fear because that's where you lose the opportunity.
And as I say all the time, especially when I'm teaching, pivot. What a word. Because pivot to me equals growth.
Yes. I love that, Vince.
Pivot is growth. You get hung up in the noise. You listen to all the nonsense, like I referenced earlier the New York Times, and everybody say, oh, the market is really not. I read it in the New York Times. Okay, it's noise, just like today. Turn the television off. It's noise.
It's noise.
Pivot when we need to because we're going to have to do that regularly in our industry. At least I've learned that in 24 years.
Yes.
And when you're able to do that, you're growing.
And you do
and
it
you're
quickly.
Learning.
Right.
Yes, I love that. You're growing, you're learning, you're getting outside a comfort zone. And also you got to move fast. You got to pivot very quickly because what you'll find even like right now in today's market is things kind of slow down a little bit. If we're not price adjusting now, versus waiting, well, let's see what happens, right? You're going to lose an opportunity and you're going to be stale.
Right.
Absolutely.
So there's an example of
and
pivoting.
being stale is not a good thing.
That's not a
No.
good thing.
Not at
but
all.
I want to
Please.
end your story with one question.
Okay.
Which will bring back the compassion and the empathy conversation for a second.
I love that.
How did it make you feel after losing out on 2 properties and you finally pivoted to put yourself up for success of how to get that property? When you did it, how did it make you feel?
Absolutely incredible. Honestly, I felt like the luckiest person in the world. I was scared, don't get me wrong. I was nervous. And also having a home, there's just so much to worry about. But I was making my dreams come true and I was taking a step. I got outside my comfort zone. And then when you get outside your comfort zone, that means you're growing. And I end up building the house. I had to knock it down. I didn't realize that when I bought it. But anyway, so that was an experience. But the true, honest feeling that I have today when I drive up that driveway and I look at that house, I can tell you my body changes, my mindset changes, and I feel like it's magic. And I get to share that with the people that I love. That's even more beautiful.
And think about when somebody works with your local
That's
expert.
remarkable story, but it's the truth. And again, I go to growth. I'm sorry to interrupt,
No,
but I go to growth because you hesitate. And by the way, when you pivot, sometimes the first time or the first act may not be the right one.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's
right?
okay.
Yeah.
And you just go and do
Keep
it again.
going.
You keep going, because if you don't keep going, you're going to stay standing in place. We've got to take a quick break. We're coming right back. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. We have so much more to go. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Infinity. Guaranteed Rate Infinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners, from a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing. My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
From residential and commercial closings to litigation, Romer DeBoss is your full-service real estate law firm. We blend big firm knowledge with boutique-level attention, delivering outcomes that exceed every expectation. Contact us at romerdeboss.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. Scott, I interrupted you before the break, so tell us what you wanted to tell us.
So I just want to say that feeling that you shared with us is, you talked about feeling an honor to work in this industry, to work in this city. I think in anybody in real estate, to think of what we actually do, we have the ability to make those dreams come true for our clients and have them have that same feeling. And that's, to me, how I have grown my business, is basically if I can do that for Jules or for Vince or someone refers me their kid or whatever it is, I want them the same thing like when I bought my first apartment 17 years ago. So thanks for reminding me how much I love my home, because, I always say you've got to love where you live.
It's a mindset. And if you approach it properly and you get there eventually, to buy it, to knock it down, to renovate it, to do whatever, and you make it your own, I think that does something to our psyche where it calms us down. It makes us, I believe, focus more. You're achieving your goals one at a time. Those people who want to achieve goals and have maybe 10 goals and expect to get them all done at the same time.
Too much.
Those are the people who don't make it, because it's way, way, way too much.
And it's the best feeling too, Vince, just to add to that, when you're a broker.
No, big time.
Like my high as a broker, now I'm managed, I've been managing for over 20 years now, but I was a broker before managing. And I remember like my high was when I would walk into an apartment, I'd look at my buyer and I'd look at their face and they're like,
yes.
And they're like, yes, I did it. Right. It's like that puzzle piece, you know, and you see like
I just got to go here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, and I was like, I found the puzzle piece, like, and they love it. And that just brings you so much joy.
It's amazing.
And that's joy. And also it's a good reminder too, that what we do is so important.
That's so true.
We help people not only by, guide them through buying some, the biggest investment of their lives for many, but it's also the roof over their head. And that's a basic human need.
It's their
and
safe
to know
zone.
and you're a part of that. That is such an awesome responsibility.
It's amazing.
My God.
Yeah.
It's so, when I'm home, it's kind of like my safe place. It's my safe zone. It's like nobody could bother me here.
Yes.
It's like, it's mine, right?
Exactly.
So true.
And just let me do it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is I'm doing, I'm looking, I'm reading, I'm whatever I'm doing, but it's like, it's my quiet.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's your sanctuary.
It's
My sanctuary.
It is a
Thank
sanctuary.
you. That's the word I was looking
Yeah.
for.
It's a great.
Where do you see experienced professionals getting caught up? We talked about this a little bit emotionally. Instead of staying disciplined, Jules, you manage the entire East Coast for the agency, so you got a lot of people under you. But how do you keep them focused, right? Or not getting so emotional, and staying disciplined? Because it's easy for agents sometimes, and I'm guilty of it. We run off and we get cuckoo and crazy, and then we got to stop and say, okay, hang on. I got to, rein this in because it's not working for me. How do you do that with people?
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said you stop for a minute.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to pause, right? So I think it's important that we take a moment, and really, I think at that moment in this time, it's all about being precise, like you've never been before. So with pricing, precise with data, really knowing what the data points are, real-time data. It's a time where you want to also consistently, this I think is the biggest challenge for agents, is always be consistently marketing yourselves. It's very, I think we can all say this, right? We see how where, agents are going, and the first thing to fall off is staying consistent with their marketing, right? And then their pipeline
Absolutely.
dries out, and then you say, well, how was your marketing 3 months ago? And they'll
Absolutely.
say, I was busy, right? So getting back, it's like, so the marketing consistent, being consistent with that, and then really focusing on the data, and then deepening relationships, like all of those are the main
We
ones.
talked last week, and I want your opinion on this,
Yeah.
Jules. We talked last week about the difference between urgency, and you just kind of referred to it, an urgent market where we're busy,
Yeah.
but yet we forget about marketing ourselves and worrying about what our next gig is going to be a
Yes.
couple months down the road, right?
And not get caught up in the current deal.
Correct.
And don't get me wrong.
That's
no.
the urgency. Get
That's
caught
the
up in the
urgency.
current deal.
Yep. You're caught up in the deal, which is where you need to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you don't want to live and breathe it. You could be doing other things. And
Yeah.
that's where the discipline comes in,
my
Vince.
God.
Where you always
100%.
have to take a step back, take a pause, and ask yourself, am I being reactionary
Mm-hmm.
or am I being proactive? And I have a plan in place. How is it looking? Refer back to it and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And take the noise away. Focus on your strategy, have a good strategy, make sure you have that to start with, and focus on it and keep executing. And it's okay, like we said too, to pivot, because the market's always changing, always pivot, that's cool. And it's okay to fail, right?
Absolutely.
Just fail real fast, right? And get back in.
Just do it quickly.
Yeah, just do it quickly.
Do it
It's
quickly,
okay
but
to
it's
fail.
okay, but it's
Yeah.
okay.
And I think also too, agents need to remind themselves that, don't get caught up in the fear that your clients are going through.
Correct.
The fear that you might be having too, because this is the only industry where you wake up and you're unemployed every morning. Right? Unemployed every
Now,
morning.
there's a way to put it, okay? You're only as good as your last gig. You're
yeah, only
unemployed
because your
today.
last deal. Right? It's an interesting. So
Never thought about it that way.
yeah,
I love that.
It's true. You wake up every morning, you're like, wait, I don't have a steady paycheck.
Exactly.
Right? So sticking to that plan and really continuing to execute it. And I think when we are in a slower market, the time to really elevate everything that you do. So elevate your marketing, deepen your relationships with your clients, create that bond with them to make sure that you continue to be that value, transparent, empathetic resource, right? And also continue to move forward with the motivation of what your client's motivation is, not yours.
Because they look to us for that.
Yes.
Right? We work for them. Let's not forget that.
Yes.
We work for them. We take direction from them. We're their consultant and their counselor, and they expect us to be that credible and trusted source. So they need to hear or feel that from us. Scott, you're a very successful agent and have been for a long time.
you.
We talked about noise. How do you separate noise, in your professional life? Because it's always out there, as we all kept talking about. How do you separate that and pivot and move to the next thing quickly? Because I know a lot of agents, I can separate the noise. After all of these years, I kind of know, all right, I'm not paying attention to that,
Right.
or that's not correct, or that's a lot of noise. And I can kind of just move forward quickly. But I know a lot of people get stuck in the mud. How do you personally identify and then separate that noise and then move on?
So it's a really great question, and thank you for asking it. And as a sort of follow-up to what you were saying, Jules, is that for me, it's about routine. So every morning I have a routine, and whether it be a good market, and I don't believe in good markets or bad markets. I believe in you need to know the market that you're in.
Exactly.
You need to understand the market that you're in
Exactly.
and how it relates to each of your clients that you're working with, and in your case, each of your agents, because they each have maybe different business plan strategies, right? But for me, it becomes part of living and breathing part of my business plan. So it starts with me taking care of myself in the morning, right? If I get up in the morning and my house is I do my meditation, my house is made, I go to the gym, then I have a good breakfast, and already I'm calm for the day. Then the noise that starts to come in, whether it be phone calls, texts, friends, family, clients. I have clients in 5 countries right now, so I usually function on their time frame. All right, so it's like boom, 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 boom. Is if I start off on the wrong foot in the day, it will completely set my entire day off. And I think about the impact that I potentially will have and the effects on my clients, on their decision-making process. And, people don't understand in the real estate world, and I could get a little bit more technical to answer your question, but people don't understand in the real estate world that we just don't deal with our clients. Every transaction, let's say I have 12 transactions I'm working on right now, every one of them has between 6 and 8 individuals buyers, seller, attorneys on either side if there's a transaction or a contract out. Maybe what's happening with their mortgage, title, then their designer wants to get in. And we are trying to manage, or not even manage, we're trying to support our clients through this very could be fair, a little bit, exciting process, right? So, I go back to, like I said, I just been able to clear the noise through me setting up my day, because after that, then it is a routine. I get to the office, I start making my calls. I know, I have an ABC method of prioritizing who's what where, right? Yeah. Everything is in my calendar. When I've ever worked with coaches, if it's not in the calendar, the likelihood of it happening probably will never happen. And I'll end on this note, is that there's a great book out there, and I forget the author, but it's 12 weeks a year, okay? And it's basically, people make business plans. And I don't want to make a total sort of stereotype, but I come from the retail world for 20 years and real estate for 20 years. So as a buyer, I created business plans. A business plan is a living, breathing document.
Same here.
You cannot just make it.
So true.
Put it in the safe and say, see ya, because if you're not pivoting because of the market, because of the noise that's happening in there, what's happening in your clients' lives, things like that. I mean, I knew a client that was getting divorced before they were going to divorce their partner because they were going to sell. They were going to sell the house.
Oh well.
So, I wish I could have bought it, but anyway. But I think it's understanding. So anyway, it's having a plan, to your point, Jules.
Yes.
But I think for me, it's chunking it down into snippets, and then each month, where did I start?
Yes.
Where was I trying to get to? What worked and what didn't work? And then pivot.
I couldn't agree with you more. I come from the corporate world before real estate, so I can be structured. I can be very disciplined. And I agree. You have to, and as you said, Jules, I never thought about it that way. You wake up every morning as a real estate agent, and you're unemployed today.
Yeah.
So you do something. I'm not going to forget that.
I'm not going to forget that either.
I love that. But, and so that can set you off in a mood or in a trend that can be, negative or whatever. But when you say, and I do look at my calendar, all the lights over there, I look at my calendar religiously, because if it's not written down, and I know from a business plan, because I had to do it, in technology sales for 20 years, okay?
Yes.
Right.
I can add to that a little, because I also love how Scott also started with how we show up, Vince.
Oh, totally.
Right, and so
it's all the way you show up.
Yeah, and remind yourself, if you can start off in a peaceful place.
Oh.
And what my morning practice,
and that's my goal.
is I do incantations every morning, right? Awesome. And I say 5 things that I'm thankful for, but I can never repeat them. So, so in the beginning, you say you're thankful for your health, you're thankful for your brother, you're thankful for, now it's like, oh my God, this hot water is amazing, right? Or you're like, oh my God, I heard 3 birds chirp this morning, not 6, it's like the coolest thing, because, and now I can take on more though, because I started off like,
I heard the same 3 birds this morning too.
Did you?
Yes.
Or maybe we live near each other. So like that piece, but then also getting into kind of how we have a plan in place. And when just to emphasize, I started a .com when I was younger, and I was very grateful and honored to take it public, and it was a very successful IPO. And I had a business plan. And then when I went into financial planning, after that, I came into real estate. And I'll never forget my first day as a real estate agent, walking into City Habitats on Columbus Avenue to Adam Goldstein.
Oh my God.
And being like, here's my business plan and my marketing plan to back it up. And he looked at me like I had 17 heads. He was like, what? I'm like, you need a plan. Don't we all have, you're a business owner, right? As an agent, you are a business owner, you're an independent contractor.
Absolutely.
And I don't know any business that's been successful without a business plan.
Correct.
Right? So get back to that plan, right? And again, pivot, and you should always, always be readjusting it, like you said, Scott. And really, when things get crazy, get even deeper into that plan and just keep executing. Keep your head down. Stay focused on your plan, on your clients, on being empathetic, on being precise, and just keep moving forward.
It really is all about us and our own heads. And I think sometimes we default to thinking someone else is going to help us, or someone else is going to pick us up, and someone else is going to tell you just what you need to hear. Maybe.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it's not. It's really up to us. It's up to our own discipline. It's up to the way we want to start our day.
Well said.
Peacefully, because I know that if I start my day once in a blue moon, like all over the place. You're right, Scott. The whole day is verklempt.
You always want to go back to bed and re-wake up, right?
Totally.
Yes, not it.
Yes.
Today's
And
not
there's
it.
nothing I'm going to do during that day that's going to change that, believe me. But when I start most days, thinking, okay, I'm good, I'm cool, this is what I have to do today, let's get it done, that routine, and it works. Jules, is there a decision that you may have made in a past cycle that you wouldn't make again? For example, I mean, again, our cycles go up and down and all over the place. Is there something that you might have done or said in a past cycle that you wouldn't do again for whatever reason?
What I probably wouldn't do again is not execute as quickly as I do today. I think back in the day, when I was newer in the industry, I was less resilient. I had a little bit more fear. I was caught up in headlines, and I could get frozen. And I also would have a fear of having real hard conversations with sellers about pricing, right?
That's a big one.
And that still happens, right? So I now can say that my lesson is not make decisions out of fear, not get frozen in this unknown market, this unknown world. And I think because we've gone through it over the years, like yourself, you become a little bit more immune to it. And the lesson is just keep moving forward, put that noise out, and execute. It's hard. It's hard.
So
and
well
also
said.
having those pricing conversations. Think about right now, even guys, like with
Toughest
what's happening.
conversations.
Yeah, it's a tough conversation, and you really have to use data like you've never used it before, which is challenging in New York too. And you really have to make sure that you know what the motivation is for that seller, and that you give them everything that's really truly happening on the ground, so that they can make a sound decision, but move quickly. I didn't. I can honestly tell you, I was more hesitant, more caught up in what was going on, and not so boots on the ground. So I think that was my lesson learned.
Scott, what about you? Anything you might have done or said or thought in a cycle that, was not necessarily good, that you wouldn't repeat again?
Absolutely. Probably about 4 years ago, coming out of COVID, 2021 was, I call it the heyday, into spring of 2022. And then the market so around 22, just because somebody is an experienced homeowner or property or investor, whether it be here or across the country or around the globe, if you've never purchased in Manhattan or New York City, you've got to realize, I had to realize, that they are a first-time buyer.
The awakening.
Yes.
So I actually had 4 years ago, I had friends of mine who've never worked with friends before. We're still friends today. But I actually were in a bidding war for just under $5 million apartments in Chelsea. And somewhere along the lines, our probably communication broke down because, yes, they own multiple homes outside the city, beach, property, things like that. And I remember this voice in my head, like, why don't they know this? Shouldn't they know this? And how did I not set this up for success? Did I just say that these folks that are successful, who are have multiple homes, understand New York City real estate? And the answer was no. And what ended up happening is, if anybody that is listening to your show, you have to use a real estate attorney in New York City.
Yes.
Okay. So
Can you imagine not in this
I
town?
cannot.
you have to, right?
Yes.
And what happened is that when it came down to the bidding war, and I asked my clients, to do something, I think our trust and communication broke down.
Sure.
And we lost out on just a $4.6 million property. Now, they bought something else. We have come back to as friends.
Okay.
And, we've kind of you work through it because you've got to be able to, okay, what did I do wrong? And it's not about what you do wrong. It's, okay, what can I do better for next time? It's what's the lesson that I learned.
Absolutely.
And so I'm working with a first-time home buyer in a north of, $10 million right now. And honestly, they are first-time home buyers in this city.
Sure.
And I'm loveliest people, and I'm grateful to work with them. But you know what? I went back to basics with them.
I love that. And I think also, too, what you are also saying is managing expectations along the way, right? Because
Absolutely.
as we say, buying in New York is like not buying anywhere else in the world.
No.
And we assume, that's the other thing too that you pointed out, sometimes the knowledge we have in our heads, we kind of take for granted, like, oh, this is how it always works, and this is what you should do.
But it's
and
in our head.
It's in our head.
Correct.
But we have to
don't-
get it out of our heads and make sure that we manage expectations with our clients, especially when you're
Absolutely.
buying a co-op, which is what, 70% of our inventory?
Oh, totally.
Right? And
Yes.
that's a different animal. That's a different
It's a
world.
whole different world.
So like being clear in your communication, managing expectations, that's kind of where you build the trust. Is that where you think kind of the breakdown kind of occurred? Or
I think that's where it also, there is, as I said, there's 6 to 8 people in a transaction, so there's lots of
Right.
noise for them. And so I may be acting in one way. I always call it, when I'm working on a transaction, I say to everybody, I'm the architect of the deal. And I had an attorney.
There's a word.
An attorneys want to go talk to the other attorney to get some dialogue going. And I called my attorney. I said, absolutely not. I said, this is between 2 agents. We're the architects of the deal. We know what's happening on both sides emotionally or not for our seller and buyer. Your job is to manage the contract and get the language right. And I actually had to have, a conversation about that because I also had an experience once where a deal almost didn't happen because the buyer went directly to our attorney and there was a miscommunication on their own, like tit for tat. Someone knew more information than the other kind of conversation. And I just watched these emails going back and forth and I picked up the phone like, someone's got to stop this. And so if everybody, that's what I feel my role is that
yeah, I love that you
I have
say
to be the conductor or the architect.
Yeah, I love that. The architect,
It's
the
a perfect
conductor.
word.
And also there are so many people we're constantly managing. It's not just the buyer and the seller, the 2 brokers, the attorney, the inspector,
Absolutely.
the appraiser. It's a lot of people to manage. So communication can easily get lost when there's so many people involved.
Right.
And
And
that's where you
does.
become that Yeah, it does.
it does,
And that's
you're
where you
right.
become that architect. And there's never a perfect deal. I mean, I can honestly
No,
say
God, no.
don't more deals have hair on it than don't have hair on it, so yeah, I love that you said
All right, we got to take a quick break.
Okay.
We're coming back for one more block. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. We will be right back.
Hi, I'm Dylan Pachulik, CEO of XL Real Property Management, New York's most trusted name in luxury property management since 2012. We specialize in managing individual apartments, townhouses, and rental buildings held by absentee owners. We maintain our properties with the highest standards of quality and service so that owners can choose a hassle-free approach to real estate investing. Rented or owner-occupied, we handle it all. For more information, contact us at xl-rpm.com.
We are back. So, Jules, when the market shifts, what's the first lever to pull? Is it pricing? Is it marketing? Is it client expectations? Is it all of the above? We go from one market to the next, good or bad to good. What's the first lever we need to start thinking about when it does make a shift? Is it when we talk about pricing all the time? Is it marketing? Is it marketing ourselves? Client expectations, as we just talked about in the last block, because it really does, and I tell agents all the time, it really always does come down to expectations,
Yes.
setting them correctly, your own,
Yeah.
and then those of your clients, and then mapping them and working them together, because when they are in line, you're going to be more successful. So what's the first thing we should look at when things start bubbling or changing, either way?
Yeah, when things start changing, you're asking which lever is the first lever
Yeah.
to pull, because all of those levers are important,
Absolutely.
right? So when you're asking like which lever, whether it's price adjusting or getting into your marketing or communicating with your clients and sharing their expectations with yourself and them, the first thing I say is this is the time where you really dig into your client and you find out how they're feeling, how they're doing, and that relationship is number one and most important. Because if you don't have that trust with your client, you are their trusted resource, and your goal is to make sure that you are helping them with what they want and where they want it and what it really actually looks like. And that relationship has to just be even more deepened now. That's the first place I go, right? Number one, most important. And then
Absolutely.
if you don't have that, then any price adjusting or marketing is it's not going to work, right? So really, the number one lever is managing your clients' expectations and deepening that relationship with them.
And Scott, along the lines of
Yeah.
pricing correctly, which we've touched on a couple of times here, what does it actually mean in a market where, as Jules said earlier, comps lag behind? We could be 5-6 months behind sometimes. in the data that we need to talk to our clients about, but yet we still have to price properly.
Yeah.
And we know that our customer wants to see, what are you talking about, Vince? You know, where is it, right? Or I don't agree with that. You know, we're $50,000 off, just to use an example.
Yes, or my neighbor got this for
Or
that.
that's
Absolutely.
That one is going to go on my tombstone.
Yeah.
My neighbor got this for that.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm
oh
not.
My God,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Why can't I?
Yes.
You know? What does it mean?
Well, for me, when it comes to pricing, I think pricing to me has never changed actually in the gazillion years that real estate's been around. I think you have to understand the market you're in, understand what your clients' needs and expectations are and wants are. But to me, I tend to always price at or below the market. And I've actually lost listings over that. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because you're being honest.
I'm being honest.
I agree with you. Same
And
here.
you know what? I don't want to, because there's two ways to price to me. There's either, you know, you put it up here and someone says, well, let's try. Okay.
Yeah, well.
Try right. Do you want to sell or you don't want to sell? To me is I want to get as many eyes on it possible.
Correct.
And if I can get you at a certain price where don't think I'm going to sell it there, you know, give you a quick example is I had a woman in the West Village on 10th, short story, that came to me because I got a great rental number in a little third floor walk-up, cute little building, $5,200 a month. She called me. She said, can you do it again? She said, I'm on the board. I want to rent out my apartment. After listening to her,
Yes.
I said, you know what? You don't want to be a landlord, do you? She says, no. More and more, she told me her story. And I learned, I said, you completely don't want to know. 3 real estate agents told her not to sell. I said, I will take the listing on if you do 3 things for me. One, and I had to do the work.
Yeah.
I had to look at the market because you're right.
Absolutely.
The market is ever so changing. So I've been watching it for several months. 2, it was empty, beautiful apartment. I said, it needs to be staged.
Yeah.
Okay. And number 3, I need to underprice it. She wanted to get $700,000 for it. You know, the numbers were in the 740s. I'd seen all the rest of the inventory in the West Village not selling there. You ready? We listed it. She did all 3. 18 showings in the first 3 days.
Woohoo.
4 offers in the first 5 days. She ended at $685 all cash. And I said, so-and-so, are you happy? She says, I'm thrilled. And this is 3 agents who told her not to sell.
Right.
So it goes back to understanding the wants and needs, creating the strategy, creating the trust, and following through and executing quickly, which is what you talked about.
And also, just to add to what you're saying, I loved how you started with pricing right out of the gate. You try to price right, and even if it's a little bit higher or lower, but at least you try to go out as tight as possible to a price that you think is actually going to bring in the people to see the property.
Right.
Because when we price too high or aspirationally, you're chasing the market. And the hardest thing to do, you're leaving money on the table, right? The most critical time to
Always.
price is when you list it. And you only
Always.
have that opportunity once.
Always.
And so making sure that you are really clear on your strategy, like you said, and you come out of the gate strong to really attract people to come and see the property, obviously, that's beyond the most vital thing.
And one last thing I want to add to that is even though the luxury market and, for the rest of your listeners around the globe, middle of the country of the U.S. is about 450,000 is the average transaction. I think I looked last night, we're about 2.1 or 2.2, right? So different market. 68 to 70% of resales
Absolutely.
are obviously co-ops, right?
Yeah.
Each building have its own designated sort of, why you're going to buy in that building or how they
neighborhood.
want to run. It's
Building's
its own
own
little
neighborhood,
thing.
yeah.
Is my client that I'm working with we've been looking at 12 properties, you ready? Between 12 and 36 million for the last 2 years.
Big gap, 12 to 36 million.
Very big.
Yeah. Well, we looked at some townhouses,
Okay.
we looked at some full floors.
Okay.
Just watching the market,
Yes.
right? Do you know that out of those 12, only one of them is sold? And the other one is the one that I have contract out for the one that I have. That means 10 other of them. So I've seen a townhouse go from 36 to 25 million. Now your poor seller is like,
Stale.
what's going on?
Yeah,
So how
what's
do you
wrong,
repurpose
right.
that? So if you had started expectations and gone the other way, and kind of just to end your question, really, it's harder today because there are so many more variables, lagging history as you talked about, Jules.
Yeah.
But now I used to always use a lot of times, building comps. If a building has 10 or more years in it, you could use that. But there's been so few trades in certain neighborhoods and certain buildings, because it is by neighborhood, by building, by unit sometimes, right? That you're going to have to look around and really understand that neighborhood.
Yes.
And that's going back to you talking about an expert needing someone that's truly in there. And that's where you need to leverage.
Yes.
Jules,
Well said.
what's the biggest mistake that buyers and sellers make when they start seeing the market turn down, not go up, but turn down? And again, a lot of noise, a lot of whatever, but when they're talking to credible, agents who give them the right advice and they realize that the market is shifting, not necessarily in their favor, either buyer or seller. What are some of the common mistakes that they make?
I think there's a few that come to mind, mistakes that buyers and sellers can make when there's, a change going on in the market like there is today. Don't pause, right? So I think what happens is that for sellers, for example, right now, wait and see, wait and see, wait and see. Well, that's not going to work in their favor. That's a risky proposition. It's time to execute now.
Very.
So I think with sellers, when they see that there's a cycle that's going, the less desirable way, let's say, that's the time where you execute. So I think when people pause, they lose opportunity.
I so agree.
And on the buy side, I understand people get nervous too, right? There's hesitancy. There is a lot of unknowns going on right now, and that can be scary. But what's scarier is missed opportunity. And during this time, there's still opportunity. It's an opportune time to execute when everybody else is freaking out. When you're clear what you want, you have a strategy in place, and you have the right broker, who's a good resource for you, working with you. Instead of pausing and being hesitant, go after it. Go, move, make a move. Don't be scared.
I completely and totally agree with that. In any market, but definitely when things turn in other directions.
Because people stop, right? They get nervous, they're listening to all that noise.
Yeah.
So like we've all said throughout this whole session, like put the noise out, focus on your motivation, what you want, but don't, stopping in that fear place.
Yeah.
Doing nothing is a costly move.
Frozen in
Emotionally,
time never
mentally,
get you anywhere.
financially, right? You're not getting your dream home,
No.
your child's not
No.
getting into that
No.
school system.
Right.
Or, you have to keep moving forward. And so that's the biggest risk, is doing nothing.
And talking about risk, Scott, so how do you think differently about risk today than you did, say, 10 or 20 years ago? And I'll ask Jules the same question.
Okay.
You're in the business 20 years, Jules 20 years at least, me 20 years at least. How do you look at risk differently today? And does it mean the same as it did when we were brand new agents 20 years ago, not knowing anything? Oh, my God, fear, fear, fear. Oh, my God. How is it different? Because it is different,
Absolutely.
in my opinion.
I'm going to say it very simple. You only grow through uncomfortable situations, right? So as a newer agent years ago,
Very true.
you've got, I call it like the thread fear that kind of goes through, some things in life that you're like, and sometimes fear is a good thing because it does kind of keep you on the road in between, so you're not jumping all over the place. But then there comes to a point where today, just go for it. What's the worst someone's going to, and someone said to me, why are you so confident in what you do? Or they've seen me out and I've taken other agents with me and they're like, how do you do what you do? I'm like, well, first of all, I love what I do and I feel grateful
Passion
to do
trumps
about what
everything.
you're doing and that passion is theirs. But I finally just decided to say to myself, is that what's the worst they're going to say? No.
Right.
If I don't get a listing or if somebody doesn't want to work with me, I still actually say to somebody, could we hop on a call for a quick second? Because I think a phone call, and everyone's text, email is, hey, Jules, thank you for the opportunity. Really, I understand you going in a different direction. Is there anything that you can offer to me that maybe I could have done differently, or maybe that you were looking for you in a agent that was going to handle this transaction for you? And if you're open to learning in every possibility, good, bad, opportunistic, go for it. Why not?
Love that.
Just do it. Just
no
do it.
other way. And for you?
I'm much more resilient now than I was when I started out.
There's a word.
That's the other
There's a
word.
word.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm really much more resilient, and it took a long time to get here, to be honest. I think my skin was definitely not as thick then as it is today. It kind of felt like dating in the
You have
beginning.
beautiful skin, by the way.
Oh, thanks. But like, it kind of felt like dating back in the day. Like, you know, the client would say they'd meet you at the corner and they don't show up, you know, or they said they'll call you, but they didn't, right? Or they say they're going to go through the deal and they don't sign. I mean, right? So, and I think I took
All of the above.
all the above, right? So I think I took it really personally. And now I think over time you become more, again, resilient. You've been through the ups and the downs. You've been, cheated on. You have been left in the cold.
100%.
I remember one time I lost 3 deals in a row in 1 week. And I got under my covers and I didn't get out of bed for a day. Not a day. I was like, I can't do this.
We've all been there.
And then finally I was like, girl, get up and get your pants back on and get out there. So I don't think I would have that moment today as I did my first couple years in the business. So
Yeah, and it's as we said at the top of the show, it's all about, starting your day in a peaceful way, in a mindset that says, okay, I just recently signed 2 new listings, and one was almost a sure thing, and it happened pretty quickly. The second one was a lot of work, and the second one was a challenge, and the second one was, anything you could write about or read about in our industry. But it happened, and I think it happened because I just remained calm.
yeah.
I provided the data. I provided the insight. I gave them, the expectations, or I set the expectation correctly, and the back and forth, and in the conversations, it went well. And I mean, it could have gone anywhere, and we've all been there.
Yeah.
It could have gone anywhere, not where I wanted it to go, but it worked out. And I think, again, being resilient and being in the business for a long time and understanding that, everything, and this is what I tell agents all the time, everything and anything can and will go wrong in a deal.
Yes.
Even when you're trying to get a deal,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Get a client or whatever.
Yes.
Everything
It
and anything can go wrong.
Always. I think that there's hair on every single deal, right?
Yes.
And then you kind of get used to it. Like, I used to freak out, like, oh my God, what am I going to
Yeah.
do? Now I'm like, all right, take a beat.
Yep.
Let's get strategic.
Yep.
What do we need to do?
It's almost like, and I
we're
don't want to use the
controlled.
word cocky, but it's almost kind of like you get to the point where you're just used to it.
Yeah, you're not as
Yes.
affected by it. It's
And
not going
you're
to
not
take you
as-
down the rabbit hole like
Right,
it
and
used
not
to,
that we
maybe.
ignore it, because we don't, but we just kind of say, okay, so let's figure it out. Let's work on it. Let's see how we can get this back in our court or whatever, and it will work out.
You're proactive versus reactive.
Thank you.
Right? As you were saying that,
Absolutely.
that's what came to my head.
You really have to be
Yes.
in this business.
And one thing that comes
in
to
life
mind,
in general.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But and I'd say one thing I've learned, kind of going back to your question, is on the risk conversation, is I realize now it's not about me.
No.
No.
This is as soon
Well
as
said,
I
Scott.
remove
Yes.
myself from
Please
the
remind everybody.
transaction, 'cause it's like when I realize, oh yeah, because you're right. I think you had said before, we don't know. I have an agent that we have. I'm lucky to have a small team, and we have a new rental out, and he said, oh, should I get back to them? We gave them the final counter on this $6,000 a month item. He said, well, they came back a second time. They took measurements. We gave them what they wanted. He says, but I haven't heard from them. I said, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what?
Good for
Keep
you.
showing the apartment.
Yep.
Because if you're going to keep waiting and waiting, you will keep waiting. And you have to be proactive, because our job is to our clients. Our job is to get that sale, that rental, or whatever it is done for our clients. So they don't want to hear the noise. And when you realize it's not about us, you can get back to the focus about the strategy and the follow-up and doing. And then it's like dating. If they like it, then hey, oh wait, sorry, we rented
They'll
it to
sign the
somebody
deal.
I'm
else.
sitting on a branch somewhere when I'm talking to my students, and I say to them all the time, it's not about you.
Yes, I'm so glad you reminded, especially getting
I
into the
can't.
industry.
Yeah.
It's too much, and
It
also
really is.
And you see the broker, you can tell when the broker feels it's about
Oh
them,
my God, yes.
or if they're in a desperate situation.
Oh, absolutely.
You can see it in how they transact and how they
Absolutely.
communicate.
Yep.
And so reminding ourselves that what we do is so important again, right? It's the roof over someone's head, sometimes their biggest investment.
Biggest.
And it's all about us servicing them is to the highest degree. And it's a big responsibility.
It's a very big responsibility, and we'll end with this. As I say all the
Please.
time, and you've heard it on this show, it can be about you, but in this way. Always figure out how to be memorable in a day, make it happen, and come home at night and ask yourself, was I memorable today?
I love that.
That's when it's about you. We're coming right back with my final thoughts right after this.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my final thoughts. So, after that great show, if 2 decades of New York City real estate cycles teaches you anything, it's this. The market doesn't reward certainty, it rewards adaptability. Every cycle feels different when you're in it, but the patterns are remarkably consistent. Markets overshoot, correct, and reset, but people who succeed long-term aren't chasing that moment. They're managing their behavior. Inside it, they stay disciplined when things are euphoric, and they stay active when things feel uncertain. Because the truth is, the next opportunity usually shows us disguised as discomfort. So whether you're advertising or advising rather clients, deploying capital, or building a career, the question isn't what is the market doing, it's how are you positioning yourself to respond when it gets there. And that's our episode for today of Talking New York Real Estate. We should always remember it's not about grand promises or overnight changes. It's about intention, choosing clarity over noise, growth over comfort, and being deliberate with how we show up every day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching and for being a part of the conversation. If this episode brought value, share it, subscribe, and keep asking the questions that matter. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep finding your space. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Substack, or TikTok at Vince Rocco. And Eleanor Roosevelt always said, if life were predictable, it would cease to be life. It would be without flavor. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am so grateful. Keep thinking the good thoughts, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business, and it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.